What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong. This is episode 140 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. I normally say that before I say what this is and where we are. I'm on the floor of a bedroom. Yeah, the title of this episode is It Doesn't Happen by Accident. And I'll get into all the things that I talk about, but, first I'll play a little bit of Read the Guitar here. Yeah, and then I'll talk about each of the four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. We'll talk about where clothing sits, and then get into the discussion. Okay, so well, okay then. Talk about unorthodox and untraditional. A little bit off the tempo, so stop and let go and see what happens, actually. That's when things start to blossom and unfold in our lives. Like an origami paper, like an aeroplane. We're in aerospace territory. You tore things up one time and found out that that's the best way to have them. Broken and bruised, battered, rat-a-tat-tattered, and torn to pieces. Because then they can be put back together. Rise from a nast or two in the afternoon after a hard morning. What? So this is In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. Man. And just like the way that I make music, it's paradoxical. It's backward. I make music sometimes. I'm so off tempo, or like, who knows where I'm going with stuff, and all of a sudden, like, something cool comes out, and then it's like, wait, I thought he could play. Wait, can you play? And then, it's kind of just a roller coaster. That's how life is, dude. And yeah. So here we are, though. The truth of all things. I mean, I'm not trying to push a religion here, and that's not what I'm doing, but, Jesus Christ is our God, and there's no opinion to it, and that's strange. How can you say it? How can you do it? We have no say. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, one of the recent ones here, might have even been the last one. It's one of the last ones from this point back. Truth is truth, and I'm not here to try to convince anybody of anything. Don't believe me, right? But just, if you want to listen to what I say, then great. If not, then that's actually great as well. But I discuss things as they are to the best that I can. And I think this topic's really cool because it doesn't happen by accident. Things in life that just seem to happen sometimes, and it's like, how does this person get their life to do this? How does this person have their body work so well? How does this person have such good relationships with their friends and family? How is this person so good at playing music, so good at playing sports? This person just seems to be so knowledgeable about this thing, and why am I not? Well, it doesn't happen by accident. It takes work. And before we get into this, I want to make sure and be very clear about something. There's a scripture within scripture, and it says faith without works is dead. A lot of people interpret that as thinking like, if you're faithful but you're not out there like doing a worldly job, then you're not going to get anywhere. Our God does not care about some job. He doesn't care about money. The God of all isn't going to care about something that we call currency that currently is something different than it was in the past. You grasp what I'm saying? I'm just spraying some words, bro. Y'all trying to turn on the wipers on the windshield. thinking I'm being mean or something when I'm speaking harsh truths. But truth is truth. Work can look like just being very faithful, okay? Work can look like a paradox, meaning it can look very backward. What work that God wants us to do versus what the world would consider work, okay? And so a lot of times these things that people are good at have come from a lot behind the scenes that a lot of people wouldn't think about as being the putting in the work. But we'll get into it, okay? One other fourth to In the Image Clothing Company is the main side, where we address the human body's natural function. We come at it through the skeletal system. The only thing that doesn't change, the thing that is actually important, because the fat content fluctuates, so does the muscle mass, and all the muscles are for anyways to move the skeletal system. Okay? There's a neutral position in every joint. The wrist, the jaw, the shoulders, the knees, the pelvis, all the things, right? The ankles, the way the feet point, the way the hands work, the whole body. There's a center line to it. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. On Earth's gravity, we have to keep it all in the center, with 2 feet opposing the center, gripping arches inward, keeping us standing atop this soil of our planet. Now, we place clothing on us, and if it's not as balanced as we can be intentional to get it to be, then our bodies are damaged. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And everything you're doing in life, you're doing it through clothing. That's not so ideal if the clothing's not. So under In the Image Clothing Company, we show free modifications in clothing. We will have clothing available in the Image Clothing Company clothing, staying centered, fitting correct, we're all discuss in a minute, being made from 100% natural materials because the human body is, and that's how we do our key phrase, allowing the human body to work. You can never train the body to do anything despite popularity. Y'all want to be like the cool kids, but they're the ones that are the most miserable because they're trying to be like the cool kids. It's a vicious cycle, you know. So, there you go. Okay, walking, sitting, standing, sleeping, breathing, eating, hydration, all the things we do as a human being. We discuss how to do them naturally because there's only one way to do things. Neutral, natural, normal, synonyms within the human being. Okay, in the Image Clothing Company. There you go. 3 times I clicked my tongue. Y'all ready for this or what, dude? All right, so proceeding with the discussion, let's talk about another fourth of In the Image Clothing Company. And I'll play the guitar also a little bit more at least. I play guitar. In the Image Clothing Company music is another one of our fourths. I show how to size and set up guitars. A lot of people are playing guitars out there, but their whole body's being altered. The hands are essentially the shoulders, and the feet are essentially the hips, just meaning the whole body can only ever work as a whole, but those two things directly. The hands go straight to the shoulders, and the feet go straight to the hips. And so if we're playing on strings that are just not set up correct, then we're not going to have a good time in the whole rest of our body and potentially through the whole rest of our lives from chronic patterning that gets built up. So, yeah, we need to be intentional. I just like to play with a little bit, dude. I like to play around a little bit when it comes to music, dude. Check out In the Image Clothing Company music. We got a new thing called Metronome Madness. And I do a lot of stuff that's pretty crazy. I like to say it like this. Some people say there's some, there's a method to their madness. I say there's some madness to my methods, bro, because I do some things in ways that other people probably wouldn't be. And it's cool, bro. It's just how I do it. Oh, shoot. All right, so there you go, bro. You never got to be massaging out your hands after you play guitar. Your hands are just meant to work. I mean, there's only one inline position for the fingers to track. So that's how I show how to set up guitars, right? Oh, yeah, it's crazy. It's as real as it gets. So there you go. In the Image Clothing Company music. I make music and place it there, as well as give a lot of informational stuff on making music. Not only guitars, but, singing and positions of the human being as we make music. So there's another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company Poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. And yeah, we do a lot of advocating for dogs. We're going to do a lot of stuff that's kind of like, like an organization type of like movement, type of like information, type of like change the whole game thing. No joke. Advocating for actually registering your litters, because you need to have a birth certificate for your dog to just, know where your dog has come from when it comes to just genetics and genealogy, to further good bloodlines of dogs. And then we do a lot of things, dude. Letting dogs stay natural. And I kind of give a little bit of a different description each time, or at least a lot of the time when I discuss In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, because it really is big. And what we do under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles is so much, because just breeding poodles alone, which is one of the things that we're going to be doing, that's a big thing. But, as I say, we're going to be a big name in poodles. I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this with any kind of like, I'm trying to like predict the future. But I will say, dude, or somebody who doesn't want to be called dude, whoever you are, I've been thinking about this dog food brand, Pure Harmony, for like, I don't know exactly how long, but probably at least a few months. Yikes. And at least for about a month, I've been pretty convicted to like mention it through In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And I'm not like trying to have some expectation, to get free stuff from people or, be sponsored or whatever. But I that's kind of where I'd leave it for now, at least for this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 140, titled "It Doesn't Happen by Accident." And yeah, today's date, right? It's the 29th of June, 2025. I want to say it right now, Pure Harmony, the dog food brand. I feel good about it. In the same way how I've been talking about Zero shoes since basically the founding of In the Image Clothing Company, the brand, XERO. I'm not like having expectations to do things like collaboration type, helping each other out, company to company, In the Image Clothing Company. And, for this, what I'm saying is Pure Harmony, the dog food brand. But I just feel like we will. And, so I'm saying it today is the point, just because I know I don't have a single standard poodle yet, but we're going to have a whole breeding program. We're going to have many, many standard poodles over the course of my life and under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. And we're going to be doing a lot of poodle parade events, right? Bring your purebred poodles of any size, poodle mix of any size. We'll do a lot of stuff outdoors in nature. So I just, all the things that we do under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles is the point, okay? It's going to be so big to where I know that as of today's date and as of what's going on right now, if you know what it looks like right now, if it's like around this time that you're seeing this, it's like, dude, how are you ever going to have some kind of like, sponsorship or affiliation with a brand like Pure Harmony, the dog food brand, when you don't even have a single dog yet? Why are you talking about it right now? You'll see. I get it. I'm not, it's not me. Yeah, and I can be wrong. All right. I'm fine with that. But I'm saying what I'm prompted to say. And like I said, it's been about a month that I've been very prompted to mention Pure Harmony, the dog food brand. All right, we're gonna have some big dogs, dude. Some big dogs to feed. Again, I'm not expecting free stuff necessarily, but they're not expecting advertisement, right? From a company that is about clothing. What? It's one of those symbiotic relationships, brother. Seriously. So, right, I'm gonna kind of sit on that for a second, because I know a lot of times I probably sound crazy. That's what I was saying about there's some madness to my methods, right? Um, yeah, because I got some methods of doing things that are kind of crazy, but you know, I'm gonna say it. I just did. All right, so let's get on with this because that's what I'll say about In the Image Clothing Company Poodles for right now. It's a whole fourth of our company, so you can go check it out and see what we do, right? Because we really do a lot. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's more than I can even fully understand myself right now because it hasn't happened yet. But you know, I'm not trying to claim to be a prophet. I'm not trying to like claim to predict the future, but I will tell you that these videos and just audio clips, if you will, in the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes will be used as a testimony for our living God and the truth of Him and personal revelation and being told things that aren't here yet but are to come when things happen that I've been talking about before they did. Because it's not about me. I mean, I'm not making it happen. I just am doing all that I can to be obedient to God. Oh my gosh. What's funny is, you know, yeah, just how perfect God is. That's what I mean. I wasn't planning on, that really going along with the episode title. It doesn't happen by accident. But that's what I mean is if we do have, stuff going on between In the Image Clothing Company Poodles and Pure Harmony, the dog food brand, one day, well, it didn't happen by accident. I was talking about it on the 29th of June, 2025, before it ever had happened. If it does, is what I'm saying. Do you see what I mean? I'm preparing for things to come that aren't here yet. I'm preparing for eternal life before I die. All right? I'm playing the long game. I'm in it for the long haul, still in the hills, throwing up charcoal. Shout out to Jaden Smith, brother. It's a line from one of his songs. I've referenced it before. I think it's cool. So, yeah, I think it's cool. Because a lot of people just looking for like immediate, instant gratification and satisfaction. And a lot of those people, if we took a big group and called it that, one of those people would have been Evan Strong, which is the person currently speaking, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, if we're talking about, a few years back. But my life's changed a lot, and that's what I mean. It doesn't happen by accident. I've had to be so intentional to put the world aside and follow God, to change visually, physically, the things I care about, how much maturity I have, or how much I don't have, right? If that's perceived or whatever, then cool, right? But I am who I am, and I'm not who I was. And it didn't happen by accident, bro. And it's not like I'm at some kind of end point. There's no end point. Death is not the end. God swallowed up the sting of death when He died for us. Jesus Christ, right? He got crucified. Death is not the end. In fact, it's actually the beginning in a lot of ways. There's no beginning or end with Jesus Christ, who is the beginning and the end. But, I am just preparing for things, and it doesn't look how a lot of people would expect it to look when you're preparing for something. That's what I started with is that scripture about, faith without works is dead. Well, it depends on what are you trying to classify as works? Because if you're just looking at it at a worldly lens and you think works equates to like monetary value, meaning money, well, I haven't had a job that's brought income in the form of money for 3+ years. I'm 25 years old, bro. I'm going to be 26 in about a week. man. The 5th of July is my birthday. No one's got to care, but just for context, I mean, you know, how can you be doing works if you're not doing like a worldly work? Well, because I'm working to further the kingdom of God. Because I don't care if I die today or not. And I don't care if I live till I'm 100. I care about Jesus Christ. And I've said this to people for years now, right? Because, I mean, I wasn't really that much of a devout Christian, meaning disciple or follower of Jesus Christ, until about 22 years old, probably, right around there. And since then, yeah, I mean, that's something I've said to people, and I couldn't mean it more authentically. You know, I think some people try to claim stuff like that sometimes, like pretending to be so content when they're not. You know, and there's a level of being content when hell is burning you. Right? You can be in the valley of the shadow of death. You know, you can be at the gates of hell. You can be at rock bottom, and you can be content with that, and only through Jesus Christ. And that's what I mean. And it's the honest truth. You don't got to believe nothing. Like I say, don't, please. But that's the case. I don't care if I die today or if I live forever, you know, in this life. And that's not going to happen. But that's the point, is I know that it's about eternal life. That's a big thing, you know. And we're not through the intro yet because I haven't talked about where clothing sits. I know. I know. I know. I know. So we'll talk about it. Pants for everybody. A man or a woman, tall or short, skinny or fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, you're a human being. The waistline of our pants needs to be entirely above our hips, because otherwise you're just restricting functionality in your hips, and there's so much going on there mechanically. The body's just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, okay? We're spirit children of God. They have been given this vessel to go across the earth within. That's all we are, physically, okay? Again, it's something that can be kind of like, you know, really, really adjusted in ways. We're not the body. The body's just something we're given, and it's actually the only thing that we have, which is an episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast title, okay? But it's just a machine, and so it can really change so much. And I have proven that. And that's something I don't like to say often. The word prove, because I don't need to prove anything to any human being ever. But also, you know, people claim that they've proved something when no, you didn't give proof about it, right? It's kind of like one of those things where what does it really mean to prove something, right? But well, in this case, yeah, that's the word to use. I've documented through video my physical body's appearance, if you will, mechanical ability to operate, right? Since the founding of In the Image Clothing Company, that's what we've been up until now. That's really all we are, basically, is videos, and hundreds of them. But I mean, just In the Image Clothing Company podcast alone, right? This is episode 140, and then, you know, lots of other videos, like, yeah, many hundreds that I've made, all very intentional, right? Not just cranking out videos for the sake of trying to put stuff out. No. But yeah, I mean, you can just see, you know, visually my body has transformed physically, its operation. And so that's something. I made a video actually yesterday, and I titled it, "The Human Body is Just a Mechanical Machine." And I placed it on the main site of In the Image Clothing Company because I've been saying the phrase that I just said a minute ago. Yeah, we're just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, okay? We just have to abide by laws that we didn't decide, like gravity, right? So I think the big thing is, yeah, people don't realize that we're not the body, you know, and we go on, bro. You know, you die and you just return to the clay. You know, you just return to the earth where we were pulled from, okay? And if you don't realize that, well, welcome to In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, I guess is what I'm saying. That's what we do, is speak on truth. I mean, that's what it is. There's no opinion to it. So let me try to prove you right. I said it that way because who cares, right? I'll prove myself wrong. That's great. Just meaning don't believe anything, but things are just what they are. So, yeah, we just can't alter the hips, dude. And so the waistband of our pants has to be slightly higher in the front than the rear because that's just the only way that our physical vessel, being the human body, will ever work, staying activated as a whole. Because anywhere any of the body goes, the rest of it comes. And so it all has to work together, or else it doesn't work at all without just like trying so hard to just like drag itself across the earth, which is a state that a lot of us are in and I was in for a lot of time in my life, okay, before now. But then the tops that we wear have seams on top of our shoulders. They have to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. The peak of our shoulders is the other end of our collarbone from the center line of the human being at the sternum. And yeah, the dreaded collar seam modification under In the Image Clothing Company, right? That's how we're going to allow that to happen. If there is a seam in the collar, it's just not going to allow the seams to sit even, and then our shoulders just won't be even, and then our body will be having rotation issues and misalignments. That's just as real as it gets. So stop working out and allow your body to work. I'm trying, dude, to help people. You just gotta listen to it a little bit and not believe it, but try it. And then the edge seams of our top should just be right at the edges of our shoulders, as close as we can to get to that point, because that's just where the functionality is. Two things we have as prerequisites under In the Image Clothing Company. Firstly, just the only way you can weave a rope across the top of the mechanics of the human foot and call it a shoelace without altering the body to the tip of the head and fingers is what we title In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. We also tie our shoes as well as human beings, and we do that evenly on both feet because there's two sides to the body over toward the center line of the body, okay? And then we remove all tags because anywhere there's tags placed in clothing, they're just causing a physical gap, something that didn't even exist decades before now and then ever before then. Changing the body's only working position and or just not allowing musculature to activate, and then the body is trying to compensate, but how could it? When everywhere any of it goes, all of it goes always. But it just doesn't happen by accident, dude. You know, a lot of people, man, they're good at stuff. And there's definitely natural talent. God-given talent is really what that is. But there's also just people who have spent so much time doing things to practice for something or to learn about something, and they don't talk about it. And they're doing it, at maybe like really early hours of the morning or really late into the night, or in their free time when other people are doing things that are wasting their time. These people are really spending time diving into things deeply, education-wise, or yeah, repetitious type of stuff, like, shooting a basketball a lot. So you get good at it. Practice makes you a lot better, usually. No such thing as perfection as a human being in this life, all right? Often people say practice makes perfect, and that's false. No opinion. You ever make a single mistake, period, you're not perfect, because perfect means unblemished, okay? Yeah, silly. No such thing as perfect besides our God. But that's what I mean. It doesn't happen by accident, but what it does happen by is intentionality. Oh, shoot. Faith without works is not dead. If you're thinking about works in a certain way, because what does it mean for you to work, right? Jesus Christ, our living God, meaning the creator of all things, the one in charge of all things, the Almighty, actually, legitimately, the one with zero limits, he didn't work for money. Maybe in certain times, for certain reasons. But he lived a nomadic lifestyle and he went around healing people for free. He has the power of eternal life in his word. He only has to speak and it's done. He'll say the word and somebody's daughter who was dead in a location on the earth that he wasn't even in rises from the dead. And that happened. I mean, that's true. Okay. And so yeah, he didn't work for money, yet he did more good than any of us could ever dream of trying to possibly get close to accomplishing, because he was perfect and is, because God is the great I am, beginning and end, always. But if God didn't do any like work for monetary compensation, then, well, why do we worship him? You know? Because a lot of times people in the world get kind of worshipped because they've got a lot of money. All right, cool. I don't care about your money at all. But the work that God did when he was here for 33 years is stuff that lasted for eternity. You know, it doesn't happen by accident. A lot of times people can stumble on accidental wealth, accidental riches. You know, you can accidentally just kind of like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Win the lottery because you stumbled across a ticket that had been blowing around in the wind and you didn't even purchase this lottery ticket, which is just like a, you know, basically a piece of paper, let's say, for, I mean, who knows? Someone's watching this in like 100 years and this doesn't even happen this way anymore. Uh, who cares? You know, there's this thing they called a lottery, and you can win a lot of money if you happen to like get the right ticket, right? Like just picture like a bunch of little pieces of paper in a bucket. So you pull out the right one and you win. Wow. You accidentally stumbled on maybe enough money to like, you know, have for a long time. And who cares? That's what I'm saying. Those things can happen by accident. But then what? You spend all that money in like a week and a half, and it could have maybe lasted you your entire life if you did it wisely, but you accidentally purchased like 40 mansions that you couldn't afford the upkeep on, and they got taken from you. Do you see what I mean? Like that's things happening by accident. What doesn't happen by accident though is stuff that lasts, and I'm here playing the long game. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mean to be prideful like that. I don't mean to like put myself above, and I know that that could sound like that. So I just want to be clear. That's not what I mean. But I do mean that, you know, there are only certain things that actually last, and other things just don't. Bro, God is eternal, and everything on the earth stays here when you die. Oh gosh, can we please just wake up as a society? That's what I'm doing, is trying my best to help people wake up as a society, bro. Yeah, that's nuts. I'm not above anybody else except for an understanding. You know, that is one thing you can definitely be above somebody with, even while still being equal human beings, is understanding and intentionality. These things that I've mentioned quite often in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. You know, yeah, stuff that takes work to do. You see what I mean? Real work, behind the scenes work. Yeah. I mean, you don't accidentally raise good children, you know. It comes with a lot of work, but not work that you're going to get paid for through money, you know. But you can accidentally become a CEO of a company and like be in some high level position to where you're making, you know, big decisions. And who cares? Because Rome collapsed in a day, and it was like the greatest empire on the earth at one point, you know. But God and his word never ends, and he wasn't looking to be some big old great empire on the earth. You know, he speaks with a still small voice. Paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ, the truth of all things. Welcome to In the Image Clothing Company podcast. But here's the thing about it, brother, is it just doesn't happen by accident, you know? A lot of people look at a lot of other people's lives, bro, and they're like, why does this person have this life that just seems to be so easy for them? And I'm out here just slaving away. We're slaving away doing the wrong things. You can slave away doing whatever you want. You can be a slave to whatever you want. That's your choice. But God's the only eternal. Everything else is just temporary. But if you just don't know, you don't know. That's why we preach the gospel. That's why we spread the truth of all things, Jesus Christ, to the earth and all of its inhabitants. Because if you just don't know, you don't know, dude. You can't be held accountable for not knowing something you don't know, bro. You just can't. How could you? Yeah. But it just doesn't happen by accident, bro. I mean, a lot of people out there, they're looking at your life and they're jealous, you know, and they don't get it. Well, how's this dude just like content over there, bro? It's like he's got nothing. And you're sitting over there, you like worked all your life away and you've got like houses and cars and money. You're not content. Well, you can accidentally stumble into wealth, you know, like I was saying. But it's not something that you can do by accident to stumble into heaven. Truly. I know some people claim like I just accidentally stumbled upon this person and they're my everything. No, they're not. No, they are not. That's what's going to cause you to live in hell. Try to make another human being be your everything. Human beings die, bro. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled It's Not About Them. Idolize this human being all you want. And they're imperfect. And you're worshiping an idol. And, yeah, it's going to leave you empty and unfulfilled and wanting more and expecting things from them that they could never be. But what doesn't happen by accident, bro, is serving God. Because it's hard to do. You know, I was thinking outside walking today, like, you know, life's, hear this correct. I'm going to say it like this without putting labels on it. So hear what I'm saying, not what you're hearing. But life's bad even when it's good. And that's a good thing. And that's confusing. But that's why I said hear it correct, because life's not supposed to flow so smooth, bro. Life's a test. Life's a trial. Life's a place to be plucked and pruned like a beautiful fruit tree that otherwise isn't going to grow nice fruit. Yeah. Okay. So, whoa. It doesn't happen by accident, you know? Having good things just kind of seem to come to you. You know, when other people are looking at it, it's like, what? How is this person getting something good again? Oh my gosh. They're like doing nothing, bro. Have you ever seen this person like actually do any real work? You know, it's like, you don't need to see it, bro. It's behind the scenes. I'm not out here to try to please people. I'm pleasing God. And that happens in your prayer closet, as it's worded sometimes. And, you know, meaning like, you know, I'm not out here trying to please man, dude. Meaning mankind. I don't need to do anything for anybody to see it. I don't need accomplishments to be like congratulated, and you know, I don't need some kind of applause from people. I don't like that. I want to please God, and that's what I do. Imperfectly, always in this life, but man, you know, I mean, it doesn't happen by accident, bro. All the stuff that you see me accomplish. I'm gonna use myself as an example because that's the position I'm in as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. That's how I structure this whole thing, is leading by example. Even as the example of the fact that as human beings we make mistakes, right? And sometimes really big ones. But I mean, that's what I'm saying, you know, you'll see it, bro. One day, yeah, we're gonna have like collaborations with some big brands on the earth. I've mentioned a few who I'm almost certain we're going to be doing stuff with, and they're not going to be just doing stuff with any random person because of whatever reason, but I'm doing the necessary work to be a credible dog breeder, to be a company that gives credible information on the anatomy of the human body, to sell good dog products and human being clothing for the sake of not altering both bodies of flesh and bone, canines and human beings. Because I'm not just like willy nilly throwing out designs, but I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I don't need to have like congrats for from human beings, but I'm just doing what's needed because it's not going to happen by accident. I'm not just going to accidentally design something that ended up like being so good for the body to work. But what I'm doing is taking a lot of time with no compensation coming from it as of yet, external, other than my own physical body working better, which is wonderful and all that I would need. Yeah, I'm not looking for some kind of like monetary compensation, but that will come as well because we're a company here for life, right? I mean, this is I'm in it for the long haul, dude. We're not going anywhere as in the Image Clothing Company. But that's what I've been doing, taking so much time and all that it's taken to get my body to work well, bro, behind the scenes. And so then all of a sudden I'm like at church, for example, because I don't go many other places where human beings are going to see me besides like grocery stores and church. That's the only two places I really need to be right now, bro. Golly. And I walk a lot, but like on this beautiful nature trail by the river here, it's so amazing that I live so close to it. But then yeah, I'm at like church or we're playing sports or whatever, and all of a sudden like I'm athletic as all get out, bro. I'm shocked by it. I used to say all the time as a little kid, and even like teenager, but just growing up through my youth, like I'm an athlete, brother. Because I always said as well as I've said under in the Image Clothing Company content, I'm in love with movement. Used to do a lot of it, flips with parkour and stuff, but I couldn't move all that well. But now, dude, I'm like a cat, bro. I'm not talking myself up in a prideful way. I'm saying it as it is. I mean, my body works so darn well because I let it work the way that God designed it to. And it hasn't happened by accident, bro. It's happened by nights of literally, with zero exaggeration, not knowing if I was going to live past the moment I was in. I mean, I've been through so much pain. I've never experienced as much pain in my life by any means, like not anywhere near as I have going through all this physical transformation that I've had to do in my body, doing what I do as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Okay. And it just doesn't happen by accident. I think that's the thing is a lot of people might be looking at it like the dude's different. It doesn't seem like he did anything to have that happen. And they're over here like slaving away in the gym, doing workouts or like on some kind of crazy random diet plan that they don't even know why, it's like the only way that I'm allowed to do these things is because I serve God, because there's only one true God. No opinion of mine, okay? Yeah, there's not. No opinion. There's no opinion is what I'm saying. No opinion of mine. There's episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled One God. There's one titled We Have No Say. I mean, yeah. Well, there's just a lot of them. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. North Star. Truth is truth. So who's really right then? Believe it or not, don't. A lot of these episodes are giving a lot of context on, there's only one God. And you can only accomplish something by serving the one and only true God. You can claim to serve some being all you want, but you might as well serve a can of bug spray. I just see it right there on this desk. Sure, claim that you want to serve anything and do it. It's not going to work if it's not God. And there's only one God. So sharpen your pitchforks, right? Dude, I get it. If one day I'm dead, just know that I did all I could to actually share truth, and I'm doing it. I just know people don't want to believe in stuff. And you don't have to, but you got to have some faith, man. Otherwise, you got nothing. All right? So, it just doesn't happen by accident, dude. But that's what I mean by using myself as an example under In the Image Clothing Company. Dude, there's so many people that, yeah, are looking at this and they're thinking I am so crazy. The things that I'm saying and the ways that I approach things, and think it all you want. But truth is truth. I didn't decide it. I can't. I have no place to ever try to claim to decide what truth is. It's apart from all of us. It was here before I was, and it'll be here after without a second thought of me, other than truth is Jesus Christ, and he's ever perfectly merciful and loving. And so he does think about me, and he is in relentless pursuit of all of us, okay? All of his children, sons and daughters of God equals, yeah. But no, I mean, it doesn't matter what you think about me, bro. Or if you think I'm right about something, or think I'm trying to be right about something and just wrong. I don't care. But, I mean, you're not going to deny what's happening. You're not going to be able to deny that I can just operate well physically, and I didn't used to be able to quite so well. You see what I'm saying? Like, it didn't happen by accident. How did it happen? Well, I'm documenting it publicly, permanently, through what I call the gift of video, and explaining how God himself, I don't think that people understand what that title means, bro. I mean, God. I mean, that's crazy. You can only serve God or you're serving the devil. And if you don't know who God is, Jesus Christ, then you don't know how to. And if you got a problem within the Image Clothing Company, stick around. Deeper context brings deeper understandings, and boy, our videos are often very long. You see what I'm saying? I say all this stuff often, man, because it is what it is. And you'll see it sooner or later if you're willing, but it doesn't happen by accident. You don't just accidentally trip and fall into eternal life. One of my seminary teachers, I'm not in seminary currently, but it's institute, which is basically the same thing. But the dude actually was a seminary teacher for quite a long time. He might still teach it. I'm going to say his last name. His name's Hansbrow. Brother Hansbrow. Yeah, that's a phrase he said. It's like, we're not going to just like accidentally trip and fall and stumble into exaltation, eternal life, a perfected body, right? Dwelling with God for eternity. It's not just going to happen by accident. No, it's not. But you need to know how to do it, or else, how are you going to, right? Yeah, and God's grace is infinite, and there's always a way, for him to do what he needs done. But meaning, yeah, I mean, that's like I'm saying. I mean, dude, I'm good at guitar, bro, and I've been saying it since I didn't really know how to play yet. But I am good at guitar, and I think people sometimes don't understand. I'm actually good at guitar. Y'all think I'm joking about it a time or two. That's what I mean, though. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens because I spent time and time and time again, meaning night after night after night. I mean, hours and hours and hours and hours, brother. When I say that, I don't mean like 40 hours. I'm like, that's like an average work week if you're working 8 hours a day for 5 days, which is what often people do in the United States of America at this time period. But I'm talking about like I don't even know how to put it into words how much time I've actually spent learning and trying and yeah, those things to figure out how to string guitars proper, how to set up guitars proper, and set my body up, my physical flesh, my human being. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't operate the same as it did in the past, as I'm saying in this, and as you can see, again, documented under the gift of video. Eternal things, unless like it all gets entirely wiped, right? But you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't happen by accident, bro. And so when I'm out there selling out stages, which I don't know if I'm going to really be, I probably will be. I'm not really into like people, giving me any kind of credit. But at the same time, I'll probably be playing some music in front of people. But that's what I mean is like when I'm all good at guitar, and I already am. But I just mean as I continually get better, it's not just like, dude, this dude's like somehow just good at stuff, and he seems like maybe he isn't, but he is. And I don't really want to, say that he is, because the dude seems like he's got too much confidence, and he's kind of like egoic and prideful, and I don't know. He talks about things that just doesn't make sense. I don't even think what he's saying is correct or true, and but what you can't deny is that it works. You know what I mean? Like, truth is truth because it's truth. I mean, it doesn't happen by accident, bro. I'm not out here just like claiming I'm so good at guitar and like not putting in the effort behind the scenes to be able to be. And that's what I mean by, when I said faith without works is dead, isn't quite how it goes, because God doesn't care about some kind of earthly job. Work looks different to God. I did this freestyle one time. I was like, work looks a lot different to me because I'm different than these people you see when you're crossing the street, you're stopping and I don't know exactly how it goes, but it was something like that, just like a freestyle I did because, yeah, work looks a lot different to me. I'm going to say it like this. It's not about me necessarily, other than, yeah, I'm one of the people. But to disciples of Jesus Christ, followers of God, as he says that he is, who we don't get to decide, brother. I'm going to hold this up right here. For those of you in visual plus audio of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, this is our quad scriptures in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. All right, I've talked about this cute little book, this actual single physical copy, this one here, under the episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Cherish It. And I found this little book that I was looking for, this actual small size of this book of scriptures. I was looking for one of those for quite a while, and I found one. Got it used for $10, $10 US, right? It's awesome. So what I'm saying is God has ways that he wants us to do things. And as human beings, we can decide to try to do whatever we want to try to do, any kind of way you want to try to do it. And it's just not going to work if it's not how God wants it to be done, or it's just not going to work in a way that's going to last, or it's not going to work all that well, or it's going to just kind of like partially be okay, but like dead end after dead end, And so, yeah, I mean, it's stuff like this, bro. It doesn't happen by accident. Me playing guitar well, my body working well. And again, I am using myself as the example because I'm the one speaking. Okay? So, yeah. But then also stuff like that, when I was saying like, I don't want to use the term like brand deals, but, collaborations with companies and other people doing good things, because that's why I mentioned Pure Harmony, the dog food brand, because they use natural materials and they just seem like they've got really good, stuff backing what they do, meaning intentions, right? They're doing good things, bro. And I can just feel it by walking down the dog food aisle in the grocery store that I go to most often. When I'm like eating an ice cream cone, often I'll go to the grocery store and I'll get a vanilla ice cream cone, and I'll just walk up and down the dog food aisle and just eat it. Because I've got a whole fourth of my lifelong company, In the Image Clothing Company, titled In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. And I know we're going to have some large dogs and quite a few of them over the course of my life. And we got to feed these dogs, and I'm not, yeah. And so I just get this feeling about this brand, Pure Harmony. My hands are up. I'm not trying to say something. I'm not trying to make something happen out of my own doings. I understand how this can sound to people, like, this dude thinks he's just like some kind of predictor of futures. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens, right? Believe it or not, don't. As I say, it doesn't matter what you think, right? But I will say this, dude. This is the whole, it doesn't happen by accident. This is me putting in work. shouting out a company saying that I can tell they're doing good things when maybe they're never going to give me any kind of compensation for it. Right? But they will. They will. And I'm not trying to say something. You see what I mean? This whole back and forth I do where I'm sitting in the space in between. I'm not sitting here expecting stuff necessarily, but what I am expecting is if I do things and say things that might sound absolutely crazy, but if I'm prompted by God to do that, then it's just going to happen the way it needs to happen. Do you see what I mean? So this is the whole thing about it. It doesn't happen by accident. The work that we put in that actually lasts sometimes doesn't seem like something that could actually really make a difference, or it just seems weird. It seems crazy. It seems bizarre. It seems like we're just like making something up in a sense, right? But I mean, because this is the thing, dude, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by cutting tags out of your clothing. Do you see what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. It doesn't happen by accident to get your body to work the only way that God designed it to, but what it also doesn't happen by is spending time in a gym. Training your body to do something that it just isn't going to do in your resting life. You know, because I used to say it like this often at the very founding of In the Image Clothing Company, when I started to really understand the human body much deeper than I did, we'll say, like that, because that's the case. You know, some people can run 26.2 miles, if that's how many miles a marathon is. I think that's the number. However long, okay? They're doing like triathlons, okay? Meaning just like they're running for a long time. Sure, but then they can't even stand. They can't even sit normal. They can't even get up and down stairs, right? They can't even get a good night's sleep, but they can push their body doing things that it could never actually do, right? That are just unnatural for it. They can go into the gym and do all sorts of weird maneuvers to their body in positions where they're pinching off joints and training deeper imbalances, and you can gain all this big old muscle, but you know, you haven't really put in work that's going to last because the muscle just goes away because you've done it in an artificial, unnatural way. You know, I mean, even if you're, not taking any like unnatural supplements or stuff like that. I mean, you're using your body in a mechanically unnatural position. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And so it doesn't happen by accident. Getting your body to work ideal, if we can say that, meaning the most ideal that we could get in our own individual cases of just the foundational way the human being as a mechanical machine is designed to operate. That's all it is. Yeah, it just doesn't happen by, that's the point. It doesn't happen by accident, and it's a paradox. It's on the back end. All you can do is let it work, right? And so in these kind of moments where I'm saying stuff like talking about companies that I'm almost certain one day we're going to do things with, and like as of now, it's like, how, dude? I mean, you're getting no views on a lot of the content you're putting out, and the content that you're getting what you could call like a lot of views on compared to other ones is like, I don't know, like 25 views after maybe a few weeks of stuff being out. And you're expecting to have like a big life-changing worldwide earth spread company? Yes, I am expecting that. Not because of me, but because I'm doing God's work. And it doesn't happen by accident, but it also doesn't happen by the way that the world would want it to look or expect you to have it be. It happens by listening to that still small voice and doing things that just don't make any sense. Doing things that make it so you have less sense than you did before. Because you're spending money on stuff that doesn't seem like it's going to get you to the place you need to be, but you got prompted to. And so now you don't have enough money to like do the things that people would think you would need to be doing to get your company to grow. But your company is growing, but maybe not yet. In a way that's calculable, if that's how you say that word, right? Maybe you can't calculate how much it's growing right now out of like views, or out of sales of products that we don't even have yet. Or like poodle puppies, because that's another thing we're going to be selling, right? As in the Image Clothing Company poodles. Yeah, but like, it doesn't happen by accident. Because I'm not accidentally just going to have all these customers buying products from us. But what I am going to do is title episode 100 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, Laying a Foundation. Because I have. Before it ever happened, I'm doing the work. But the thing is, people will look at it one day and be like, all of a sudden this company just blossomed out of nowhere. This dude was just like sitting in his basement room and like standing at parks, just filming videos of basically nothing but himself. You know, maybe you're thinking I'm an egoic person, all self-centered or whatever. I just want so much time behind the camera. No, the reason I'm behind the camera is because I'm delivering the information that's eternal. And so when the company does just absolutely, because it will, take off, dude. It's going to shock people like no other. You're going to be like, dude, why does his company work and mine doesn't? Why is he getting sales and I'm not? Why does he have people actually interested in what he's doing and I don't? Well, because I know how to approach things eternally because I know God. And I know that you got to put in a lot of work before you see results sometimes. Okay? And I'm in it for the long haul. And I know that nothing I do, give or take, I'm not perfect, but, you know, most all the things that I do, there's no accidental to them. And that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard life to live. And to people around me, it might look like I'm not doing much of anything at all right now. Well, give it some time. Good things take time. You gotta wait a little bit, bro. Hurry up and wait, you know. If you heard people say that, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, just calm down. It's like those people go so fast, you know, once the light turns green at the stoplight on the street when they're driving a car, they just speed up so quick just to stop at the next light. And now the person that didn't speed up quick meets them in the exact same spot, stopped at the next light. It's like, bro, take your time with stuff and do it well, and it'll last. It just doesn't happen by accident, bro. But the big thing is, you don't see what's behind the scenes with people who are really actually invested in what they're doing. People who just want things to be, oh man, seen by other people, man, for the sake of that being the goal. Yeah, they do everything out in the open just for the sake of, a lot of people don't think that anything's worth doing unless they're getting congratulations for it. And I don't care if I ever get congratulations from anybody for anything that I ever do in this life. That's true. Because I know that it's not about this life. Just like it's not about only doing something today if I get rewarded for it by the time the day's over. No, I'm doing things today and next week and next month and next year that'll help me in 10 years from now. And then when things happen in 10 years from now, it's like, dude, how did this just work so well for you? It's like, oh, well, look at what I was doing 10 years ago. All right. It wasn't some accidental success. It was, yeah, I mean, it was calculated. It was ordained, though, by God. Because that's the thing with In the Image Clothing Company is, first of all, the name. In the image of Jesus Christ is who we were designed by. So our 5-word company name, In the Image Clothing Company, okay? That's a big thing where it's just consecrated. I mean, what I mean by that is I'm not doing anything that's something I have a say over. You can't have the goal be natural and decide what natural is when nature was here before us and will always be here after us. That's the thing. It's nothing that could happen by accident because I have to be so intentional to continually keep trying all that I can to keep myself aside and put God first, because otherwise it's just not going to work. That's the whole thing is, yeah, it just doesn't happen by accident. I mean, that's just the point. I just know someday, somebody, and many of them in this case, right? This will happen so many times that people stumble across in the Image Clothing Company, accidentally stumble across us, and then they'll be saying like, whatever about like they went to school for a business degree and you know what I mean? And like, how does this kid just have such a successful company? He didn't put in the work beforehand. Well, because God doesn't care about a business degree. God cares about bringing his children together, which is the whole point of poodle parade events, right? I mean, which is the whole point of me sharing information to allow the human body to work, is bringing a collective society of equal sons and daughters of God unto an understanding that they cannot decide who or what they are. And that's what their life will be changed by. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't happen by accident. It happens by having no money for so many years so that my focus isn't on stuff that I can get for myself, but learning how to actually rely on God, because nothing's ever promised. And I could have the biggest company on the earth at one point, and then it could come crumbling down at another. And I could have expected it to last for life because it's going so well at one time, and then who knows? Because I'm not in charge. It doesn't happen by accident, dude. It happens by serving God. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So I just, yeah, yeah. You're just not gonna accidentally